Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am your host, Paul Herman, and today we are talking about Daredevil. Lots of Daredevil talkings about because we've got a new Disney Plus show. So buckle up your current MCU Required Reading. I talk too fast sometimes, y'all. Sorry about that. But today we're obviously talking about the famous horned one himself, Daredevil, and we're going to be discussing the Series 1, Volume 1, I guess you could say, series of Daredevil Marvel comic books that, one, introduced the character and also had, creators like Frank Miller and other people we'll get into in a little bit, define the character and really show what this character can do. And I couldn't do it alone. I had to bring in a hardcore Daredevil fan, a friend of the show, been on before many times, Mr. MJ himself, Michael Daly. How are we doing today, Michael?
Doing good. I'm very excited to dig into Daredevil with you. We've been talking about this probably for like 2 years, maybe.
2 years.
Yeah. Hey, we should talk about Daredevil Volume 1. I think it was way back in the beginning of the pandemic. I think I was just reading a ton of comics. What else were we doing back then? And I think I reached out to you. I was like, hey, what should I read? I've always loved Daredevil. He's always been my favorite hero, but really more for appearances in games or the Spider-Man animated series. I hadn't read a lot, and you told me, hey, just read the Frank Miller stuff. And I was like, what if I just read everything? And so I dug into that, read all of Volume 1. It took me quite a long time. Like anything, you pick it up, you come back to it, and so exciting to kind of finally dive into that journey and kind of talk some of my favorites and some of your favorites from kind of Volume 1 of the lesser. Everybody's read the Miller stuff, but kind of dig into some of the other gems in there.
Yeah, I think that the thing about Frank Miller is, and you'll know that it's called Born Again, right? The series it's based off, or not, excuse me, the name is based off the series that Frank Miller wrote. But for those who don't know, the Comic Binge is solely based for people to get into comics and to binge comics and just read like what we're doing today is essentially what I wanted to create the show for people who get excited about comic properties or comic like just kind of stylings of genre, like whether it be science fiction or whatever, tie it into the comic books in one way and give people something to read that they can get excited about, right? And so obviously Frank Miller is like the go-to for most of Daredevil stuff, right? So but the cool thing with you is that you read all of Volume 1, and Frank Miller cut his teeth on Daredevil Volume 1, which again we can talk about ad nauseum about the original Frank Miller stuff and then like the Born Again, but we're not going to do that. When we started talking about doing this show a while ago, I think I even told you, I'm like, I want to know like what you want to read or what people should read, what you think, because you've read all of Volume 1. I haven't read all of Volume 1 like you have, but I wanted you to tell me what you thought people should read in Volume 1 that people maybe or be more into than they realize or don't know about, right? So I asked you, I think we talked about this for a long time, so finally I pegged you down. I was like, Michael, we're doing it right now, okay? Because it's opportunity time, because it's new showcase came out.
Synergy.
Yeah, exactly. If there's a way you can get closer to your mic or anything, you're a little bit. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let me
turn it up. I'll explain more as we go here while you do that. So yeah, Michael is a huge Daredevil fan, and while Michael's getting his mic kind of figured out, or best he can, the one thing I'm going to say is for those who are watching and you want to read like, obviously the go-to is Born Again, right? Because it's called Born Again. But beware that series is that storyline is not what the comic is based on. Basically, and before we get into our picks, I think you would agree. I'm not sure if you've read. I know you've read Zdarsky's, obviously, but
yeah.
But I'm talking about like Charles. I think this whole series is based upon Charles Soule, obviously, in Chip Zdarsky's run, kind of amalgam together, if you will. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you definitely see some elements of that because they basically did Born Again already in season 3. So I think I had when they first announced the name, it was kind of like you kind of did that already.
Yeah,
And so,
right.
but
Yeah,
I
it's
think
called
they're
season 3.
they're being a little meta with it, and it's Born Again for the series, not in a way beyond the just the influences they're pulling from.
Yeah.
Um, I think it definitely pulls from stuff beyond that, but I think I'm not that familiar with the Charles Soule stuff. I haven't got there yet.
Oh, you haven't? Okay.
No, I have not. Yeah, that was the era I wasn't really reading Daredevil at all, and so I'm in volume 2 somewhere. I haven't jumped back on the volume 2 horse now, but I'm sure Born Again will have me hyped up to dive back in and
Okay.
get going on that.
But you've read a good chunk of Zdarsky's though, right?
Yeah, I've read all of Chip's
Okay.
work.
I haven't read the last
reading current. I was basically reading everything current, and then going back and reading volume 1 alongside kind of Chip's run, because that was all kind of happening at the same time I was diving into volume 1.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Chip's run is really driving this whole series essentially. So I would say if you guys are looking for a Daredevil comic to get into that's inspired by the series, that's going to be a little bit different but kind of in the same vein, definitely just go look up Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto's Daredevil. Start there, and it's pretty good. I haven't finished it. I'll be honest, towards the end, it lost me a little bit. It lost me. I mean, and I'm pretty critical of Zdarsky. He's hit and miss with me.
Yeah, I loved it. I think the art in particular is phenomenal across
amazing,
consistently. And I think I kind of get what you mean though. I think there are times where it felt like it dragged, and I do feel like I need to do a reread of it, because I was reading it monthly as it would come out, or maybe even skipping a month or so and being like, okay, I'm going to catch up, read the last couple months issues. And I feel like I feel like that's a poor way of reading comics for me personally. Because
Really?
I feel like I forget too much, and I feel like I'm constantly feeling like I should just go back and reread it, and I feel like I don't appreciate the arc nearly as well as I do if I'm just sitting down and binging something or reading a given arc at all in one sitting or in a couple sittings, just because of it's so fresh in my mind. I feel like there, and especially as someone who hadn't read a lot of that series references and brings back characters from previous elements, and I always found myself being like, should I have remembered this from earlier in the run, or is this a character or some moment they're referring to from a previous run I've never read? So yeah, I think overall really loved it, and I think in particular I feel like for Born Again, a thing that the Devil's Reign crossover event I feel like is probably gonna be a big thing, from the trailers, and no spoilers, but I think from the trailers, Mayor Fisk is a thing in this series, and Devil's Reign is kind of all about Fisk running for mayor, being mayor, and taking on vigilantes, in which
I will say of the run, I was actually impressed with Devil's Reign. It's basically Civil War, but I think actually done better, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. No, Zdarsky has his moments though, like in that series where I'm like, dang, and even his Batman's kind of emulating that too a little bit. So anyway, we have a lot to get to, so I don't want to get too deep into that, but we'll have to have you maybe on. We'll do a Zdarsky check in. Which, by the way, speaking of Zdarsky's Batman, maybe I should make you read Batman and come back.
I did technically all of Batman, just start from the beginning. That's a lot to binge. The nice thing about Daredevil. The nice thing about Daredevil is he actually has a pretty even though he's a character from the 60s, because I was even doing every appearance. Every appearance as far as I could tell. I would a lot of times I would get to a book and be like, this random Fantastic Four or random whatever book he showed up in. I'd start reading and be like, does this seem relevant? No. And I would just skip my way. All right, Daredevil showed up, and it'd be like one panel, he's like in the background, and I'd be like, all right, I don't need to read this. But I felt like I was doing it all, so I felt like I had to do it all.
Okay, so really quickly, I did and I'm still doing it technically now, but I was doing every Spider-Man comic from a storyline, like chronological appearance. So I was reading like Amazing Fantasy 15, then 16, 17, 18 by Kurt Busiek. And then I did Untold Tales of Spider-Man with the Amazing Spider-Man series. And I was going through all of Amazing, most of the guest appearances into like Marvel Team Up, into Spectacular. And wow, that's been, I saw through the 90s.
Yeah, I was doing that, and when I was doing this, thankfully Marvel Unlimited, I feel like they've filled out a lot more of their
Yeah,
backlog.
they
They
have.
have all of Daredevil Volume 1 now.
I saw that. Yeah.
When I started it,
It didn't.
I have a long box full of dozens and dozens of issues just from kind of in that middle run, like post Miller, pre Nocenti, and
Yep.
pre Miller again, and that's kind of like the era that I don't think kind of had, it's in between two big runs and two big creators, and so they just didn't focus on those, and
Right.
I don't even know if they were digitally collected, so I was eBaying a bunch of single issues.
Ooh.
I had to keep going. I had to be a completionist and hit all of the every issue.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you collect comic books, man. You become a completionist, and it's a dangerous road.
And it's way easier than when I started. So if you want to read all of Daredevil, it's all there in Marvel Unlimited. You can.
Yeah.
Every single issue of Volume 1 is there.
Okay, so we're gonna start. So I tasked Mr. Michael Daly here to give me 5 main stories from Volume 1. And those who don't know, it's from like what 1963 to 1998, I think, or something. Like
that sounds about right. Yeah, it's 380 issues.
Yeah, or is it 380?
It's 380. The weird number, but yeah.
Okay. For those who don't know, like as we just said, this mother effer is all on Marvel Unlimited. They're not even paying me to do this, so y'all. I just do this because I love comic books. I don't even give an F. So this is all on Marvel Unlimited. Now, mind you, it is horrible to look at Marvel Unlimited through desktop. It's awful. It's horrendous. The apps are way better. So if you do read comic books on Marvel Unlimited and you're having trouble navigating through the website, you're not alone. It's terrible. Marvel needs to fix that ASAP. But yeah, iPad, iPhone, whatever. iPads are amazing for digital comics.
Yeah.
So get the iPad. I'm telling you, get Marvel Unlimited. Read all this for a super good price. I love Marvel Unlimited. It's great. So anyway, I tasked Michael to give me 5 main stories from Volume 1 that people need to read that are not Frank Miller or Klaus Johnson or any whatever. And I wanted 5 stories that he thinks that he recommended people. So I meant to write these out beforehand, but I got lazy, so I forgot. So I'm going to write them out as we go. So, also, I'll mute myself here in a second. But okay, Michael, I got obviously the first issue up. So explain your first pick for people to read and binge Daredevil Volume 1.
All right. So I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. I think for me, this isn't really a true arc. Some of these aren't necessarily like true arcs with a full, proper title or anything, but I think I picked issue 1 through 8 as kind of a great. This is Daredevil's origin. This is the original start of the series, and it's basically banger after banger of one-offs with new villains every single issue. You have issue 2 is the first appearance or second appearance of Electro, making the jump from Spider-Man. You have the first appearance of the Owl. You have the first appearance of my favorite Stiltman. You get it's a great back-to-back run of just kind of establishing that original Rogues Gallery. I think Purple Man also. A lot of significant characters that continue to be fixtures throughout Daredevil Volume 1 and even today, and kind of more modern Daredevil comics and other series make appearances still. So it's a great kind of back-to-back run of a lot of great work. And I think, definitely a shout out to, I think it's issue 7 where you have Namor. Namor makes a cameo, and this is probably one I feel like people have probably seen at least some of the panels, because there's the great classic Daredevil. Namor wants Matt Murdock to help him sue for the rights to the world, basically.
That's amazing.
Some great old campy comic book storytelling. It's also the introduction of the red suit. So it really, this kind of run is a great, like, just very classic kind of intro to the early age of Daredevil. Still, man's great. I have a graded copy up there. One of
Oh,
my
geez, really?
one of my prizes. Yes, uh, my partner was kind enough to give me that for a gift. It's one of my the
Too good to
prize.
you, bro.
I know. It's one of the prize pieces of my Daredevil collection.
Mm,
Who doesn't love
nice.
Stilt Man?
You know, I think I may even help with this one, by the way. Just saying. Just saying. I think I remember hearing about this.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe put some input in on it.
I want to be surprised.
Oh,
Yeah.
good old partner.
Yeah, yeah.
So really quickly, for the record, do you know what Stiltman is up to recently? Do you know anything about what Stiltman's doing?
I don't think I do.
I
He briefly appeared in the Zardansky run.
Oh, did he?
Yes, there's a brief appearance by Stiltman in the Zardansky run. It's toward the end final climax of that
Is he fight
run.
with the heroes?
Yes, when they break, spoilers a little bit for the Zardansky run. There's a moment where Matt and Elektra basically need bodies to fight the Hand, and they break out a bunch of villains, like
Really?
giving them an opportunity to to basically fight for good. Uh,
Hmm.
and so Stiltman is one of the guys they break out of prison. He doesn't play a major part. I think he's mostly there as like a fun throwback but I do know he pops up here and there throughout some of the more recent stuff too.
Okay, so for the record, so I was watching, not watching, I was doing, sorry, I'm getting some of the pictures you saved here. I almost forgot about them. I remember there was an Iron Man run by Chris Cantwell that I really liked, and he actually put Stiltman in like a different like world, and I was like, man, has Stiltman been showing up since then? So it's weird to me that you just told me that, because I'm like, wait, isn't Stiltman in like a different, like he was in a different world and like started like it's bonkers. But I remember being like he like started the Ultimo like character. Anyway, it's nuts. So that sound like, have you heard about that at all? Did they reference that at all with him?
No, that's totally new to me. I'll have to check that out though.
It's pretty wild.
My
I like
favorite. I love a good campy Silver Age villain, and he's certainly my favorite Daredevil one.
Yeah, he's pretty ridiculous. I think Spider-Man has a pretty good like run run in with him with Roger Stern back in the day. Let's see here. I'm trying to think what else I was going to say about. I'm getting these pictures ready here in a second. Yeah, go ahead and talk about a little bit about like the introduction to like the owl, Mr. Fear for a second while I get some of these loaded up here. Anything you want to say about those characters when they got introduced?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a little less. Those guys are less close to my heart, but I think again, like I was saying,
Mr. Fear, seriously?
He's great. He's great. He's no Stillman, but
oh god,
they make really good, consistent. They are pivotal central Daredevil villains repeatedly throughout the volume, and I think one thing I was going to add is like I think some people, I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but might be turned off by some of the old 60s comic books. There are a lot of words. If you look at a panel from a 60s comic book, they hadn't really figured it out, how what the medium was yet, and it's a lot of words. It's very dense. So I totally understand if some people try to go to that and it just doesn't work for you. These stories are more or less covered by Daredevil Yellow, which I think is the last time I was on the podcast.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So Daredevil Yellow more or less is a retelling of most of these stories. It doesn't cover all of them, but it's a good, more modern retelling, and with incredible art and great writing. So I think those are definitely worth checking out.
Yeah,
if the old stuff doesn't really work for you.
Well, and the old stuff, to be honest, it's hard. Like I'm gonna do eventually a giant Jack Kirby Stan Lee FF run, maybe even before the movie comes out. And I've read the first like 12 issues of that run a long time ago, and it's just it's good for what it is, but it Spider-Man, doesn't matter what it is, it's rough. It's rough for a little bit. Like you see like eventually when Lee and the artists like Ditko or Kirby or whoever or Heck or whatever, like they finally get like their footing underneath them, like like you said, they're figuring it out, like how they're doing the whole superhero thing with like the storytelling. Once they kind of figure out they're like reusing different things and callbacks and whatnot, that's when things really take off. So it's about I'd say about a year, like the first 12, 13, 14 issues are just kind of takes a while to get their things figured out for the most part. But once they get that through their system, it like all hands are deck, or like we're ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, would you agree to that even with Daredevil?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think one point I did want to touch on is I think for me as someone who's not like my comic books, the breadth of my comic book knowledge is not. I'm like a more casual, or I have my niches. I have my things that I go deep in on, but I don't have like a huge like cross section kind of experience and knowledge that you necessarily have. But I think for me as someone who, it was really cool and really fascinating to pick a single character in a single run in a single series and read it from start to finish, because it really gives you appreciation and insight into just the evolution of the comic book medium, like in the way they tell stories. Because as you go, like I think I had not read any of the Miller stuff before this, and I think when I got to that point, it was like a holy shit, there's something's different. Like there's a reason that run is classic, and it's just because they were operating at a whole nother level that people had not hit before that. And I think it really gave me an even greater appreciation for what they were doing and what Miller was doing in his run. And again, some of their other runs we're going to talk about later on is just you really see the evolution of the medium, and they really learn that it's a visual medium, and they really embrace it, and slowly over time you kind of see that kind of really stand out.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool, and I've never read this. Eventually I'll get there, but yeah, this is all pretty good stuff. So again, for those who don't know, I'll put it up there. For the record, I meant to put volume 1 here, but I forgot. But it's Daredevil issues 1 through 8. That's Michael's first leg of going to, for the essential Daredevil reading, which I think is fair because they introduced so many different characters and aspects of the character in those first like 8 issues. So that's perfect. So we'll move along here. And I think this next one we have is actually going to be, it's a one-off, and it's an honorable mention because we're going in chronological order. This is one of your honorable mentions, correct?
Yeah,
this is issue 87.
Yeah. So this one is kind of a personal pick. This is Daredevil moving to San Francisco. I'm from San Francisco. My favorite hero in the city I live in is fun. It's also kind of really the kickoff of Matt Murdock in Daredevil, his relationship with Black Widow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really when they like move in together in San Francisco. It shortly after this, I think I didn't know this before, but probably not a lot of people know this, but they eventually retitled Daredevil to Daredevil in the Black Widow. And for a good year or two, that's the name of the title. My understanding from reading a little bit about it is I think that's kind of at some of the periods where the title was maybe being less successful, and so they're just kind of trying to find a new way to kind of get more attention, improve sales. And yeah, it's a kind of a fun. Didn't have any specific arc from that kind of period, but wanted to highlight this one as kind of like a fun battle with Electro, and kind of introducing Daredevil to San Francisco, and kind of that big change of pace for him, and kind of where the series goes shortly after this for quite a while.
I think we talked about me when we were hanging out one day. I think you told me about that. I didn't know that Black Widow was in the title too, which let's be real. The problem with the MCU though sometimes is that we get robbed of things like that because they always had a good relationship, those two, and that is something we never got. It would have been cool to have them have like some interactions a little bit, right? Just a kind of homage to it, but that's obviously never going to happen. Maybe we'll get Black Widow or White Widow or whatever her name's going to be, Elena,
Yeah,
maybe that'll be the, I would be opposed to that. I'd be down. I'd be down. All right. So that's your honorable mention, issue number 87, which I love Electra. I'm an old school fan. Always love Electra.
It's a great cover too.
Yeah, that's a great cover. Okay. Next is going to be what we have on the list is your second one, which is Daredevil's issues, volume 1, issues 133 to 137. Spin me on this one here, my friend.
All right. So this arc is each issue is kind of a different, is Daredevil fighting a couple different villains, but kind of in the background, you have the Jester basically creating fake news and misinformation, and it's very much a story before its time.
It's ahead of its time.
Yeah, there's here you go. Daredevil murders the Jester, creating all of this using misinformation to kind of just, most of Daredevil comics are how can the villains ruin Matt and Daredevil's life, and this time it's through misinformation and turning the public against Daredevil. And so it's just like I said, it's very much a story ahead of its time. I don't actually know the year on when these issues were dropping.
Can you tell me who wrote and drew them?
Let me look that up. I'm bad at that.
How dare you?
I know. I have my iPad with me right here. We're gonna get that information.
Good. I depend on you, Michael.
If you can be lazy, I can be a little lazy too.
Exactly. It's fair. That's fair. I'll give you that.
We're just hanging out here, Let's see.
Exactly. We're just hanging out.
This is Marvin Wolfman as the writer, and Bob Brown.
Oh yeah, Wolfman. Okay, yeah. I love Wolfman.
Yeah.
Okay, who's the artist?
It was it changes.
Okay,
it's Jim Mooney at one point.
Oh, Mooney, yeah, Mooney's great.
And then it is where was it? And then Jim Mooney, and I think it kicks off the first issue is Bob Brown.
I don't know that one. I don't know that one as well, but I will tell you that Jim Mooney is a great artist, and he had done a lot of Spider-Man work back in the day, and I've read and seen his art a lot, and with that, and it's really good. He's a great layout artist. Knows how to tell a story really efficiently and great. So, Marv Wolfman, how familiar are you with Marv Wolfman? Just curious.
Not at all, from beyond just his Daredevil Volume 1 stuff. Yeah.
Well, you'd be surprised to know, my friend, that he is in him and George Perez did lots of great DC work with the Teen Titans. They're the ones that created the Teen Titans, or the modern day Titans, I should say. I think they created Teen Titans. Yeah, they created it. And then in Crisis on Infinite Earths was them. Wolfman had some great. He's a legend. Yeah. If you want, for those who don't know, Wolf, it's really cool. You picked out some stories that Wolfman did, because I had no idea he did some Daredevil stories. So that's pretty cool. And his work, he had a short little stint on Spider-Man, which I really liked. And he does like issue 200, where it's a cool story where the burglar that killed Uncle Ben comes back to the house. It's cool. It's really good. So I love that issue. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man issues, maybe. But yeah, so just kind of just kind of give me why should people read this necessarily? What's your sell on this one?
So I think one thing I tried to do when pulling this list together is like find things from different eras of Daredevil. Mm-hmm. And I think, for me, this was just really one of the more standout of this kind of era of Daredevil. I like the twist on the misinformation. Like I said, it's just, very relevant for our times these days. And, in a way that it wasn't necessarily at that time, but it just kind of creates a compelling villain that, he's fighting Daredevil, and the Jester's not someone who can fight Daredevil, head to head, but
mm-hmm.
But can certainly do some damage through other means. And so, it's kind of an interesting different approach to that conflict.
Yeah, this one was you sold me on this one, because I was like, I don't know. I'm like, this era of Daredevil is very. It's just it's not one I would
It's
want to.
certainly not the like best era for sure.
Oh, for
This I
sure,
think
yeah.
is a standout in this window though.
Yeah, but it's cool because you picked out like so when you picked this out, I'm like, oh, dude, that's actually kind of rad because I wasn't expecting you to pick something from this era, so that's pretty cool. So you piqued my interest for sure on that one. So, yeah, Jim Mooney, great artist, Walter Wolfman, effing legend in the comic industry. So definitely have my interest. So, Javi, listen, you didn't show up today. You can't talk SH today, buddy. That's all I gotta say. Whatever, El Corazon coming in. The new teen. Actually, Ball, let me tell you about the Teen Titans and DC comic books. Whatever, dude. You can make fun of me next week. New Teen Titans, same difference. So, anyway, all right, we got your next honorable mentions up here. Which I'm pretty this one was very interesting. The covers are I don't know, man. These covers, they're very interesting.
So this next one is 208 and 209. Really,
Yes.
the standout here is 208. And I had sent you a couple of the images.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, one second.
Yeah. With there's two of them. There's the one with the gun and then the one with all the knives. 208 it's a really just a standalone story that kind of gets continued a little bit in 209, but basically it's telling the story of Matt gets lured into this mansion, and the mansion is basically trying to kill him, and so he's trying to escape through the mansion, and you just have some incredible art, incredible panels. It's all kind of in Matt's internal. There's like no dialogue basically. It's all kind of internal thoughts as Matt's trying to escape this mansion. And like I was saying, when it comes to like how I throughout this process, I was able to kind of feel the medium evolve, and this was really a big standout for me. This was one of those ones I had to find on eBay because it wasn't on Marvel Unlimited, and when I got to it, it wasn't. It is now. And when I got to it, I was like, wow, that was something unique and something really special. So it's really been it was really a standout for me, just for really the art is what kind of brought it to kind of a different level.
Okay, so who wrote it? Who drew it?
This is done by Harlan Ellison and
okay,
David Mazzucchelli.
Mazzucchelli, dude.
Yeah,
that dude's he knows how to rip it up. Speaking of Mazzucchelli, didn't he do the End of Days Daredevil series?
End of Days.
It's Bendis. I think Bendis did the.
Okay,
the
yeah,
writing.
I haven't read any. I don't think I've read any Bendis Daredevil stuff yet. I'll get there.
When that time comes, you're getting. Because we've talked about this at all? Have I talked to you about the Bendis stuff at all? Like
I don't think so.
Well, I'll spoil a little bit for you how I feel about it right now. I think it's better than Miller.
Okay.
And do I think it's as impactful as Miller? No, but for me, I loved his Daredevil. I think his Daredevil is maybe the best Daredevil ever written, in my opinion. I think it's really, really good. Like, I didn't expect that. I knew it was highly acclaimed when I read it, and I expected it to be good, but I was blown away how good it was. Because Bendis is a very particular writer, and he can kind of be like a lot of writers, kind of one-trick ponies. He really understood the assignment with Matt and really wrote a great character and really did a great job of fleshing out, getting interesting stories and everything. So, yeah, I love Bendis stuff. So
all right, we'll talk when I get there. Yeah, this is by signing up to read everything. I feel like I can't break.
Oh no, yeah.
Can't break order now. I gotta go through. I'll appreciate it even more when I get to it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So we have again, these are honorable mentions, just kind of some random issues, 208 and 209. So
yeah, 208 in particular, 209 though does wrap up the story. But it's a little more traditional. It's also Ellison and Mazzucchelli, but it's kind of a more traditional. It's not doing as much unique visually.
Okay. All right. This next one. So I haven't read. I don't think I've read these ones. The ones that we just talked about.
Yeah.
So, but whoops. I have read. It's been a while, but I have read this next series. So I'll throw this up here. These are issues. I'll kind of put them all together here. Daredevil Volume 1 issues 254 to 250. I meant to put 250. 257, and then 259 to 263.
I think it's 50. I think it's because issue 258 is John Romita Jr. needs to take a break, and we're gonna do a side story kind of
Classic.
comic
Classic.
books. The
Hey,
art takes a while.
I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it. So,
Give John Romita Jr. all the time he needs because
amen to
he's
that.
cooking. This whole run he is cooking. I think this run might have some of my favorite Daredevil art like ever.
His Daredevil art is. I'll get more to JJ. So explain like kind of the premise of this, because this is I would say this is probably a pretty standard story that most people should probably read if you like Daredevil. So go ahead.
Yeah. I'd say aside from Frank Miller, when you're looking at the volume 1, I think Innocenti's probably up there as far as like the writers that people have probably know and have read their stuff. And for me, her arc around Typhoid Mary, the introduction to Typhoid Mary, it might be I could probably make an argument with myself that it's my favorite like arc period. It's I think her run, even beyond this selection of issues, I basically had to kind of edit myself and not pick like 2 or 3 Nascenti arcs, but I think her run is just up there just as much with Frank Miller's. I think she's doing incredible work. I think Typhoid Mary is a super compelling character as someone who can destroy Matt Murdock's life both as a super villain as Typhoid Mary, but then also destroy his personal life as Mary, manipulating him romantically, and just kind of throwing his personal life that he had just gotten back together into disarray, all at the same time. I think many of the best Daredevil stories are about the writers just destroying Matt's life and how low can they possibly take him. And I think this one is takes him about as this story and where this run takes him is he literally ends up in hell fighting demons. It's not just metaphorically. And I think one interesting thing to note is that you see from this cover is this this arc is intercut, and Anderson he's run has multiple crossover events that she was probably compelled to include in the series. But I think you read a lot of crossover comic books sometimes and they just feel like, oh, this is just some weird side story that kind of is just like a break from the actual story because they want to sell the bigger event they're trying to do. But I think Innocenti kind of integrated these side stories really into the core of what the story she was telling and the journey she was taking Matt on, especially with these Inferno crossovers.
These are bonkers, by the way. These stories are bonkers.
Crazy. And you get some great Human Torch. This issue is basically a Human Torch issue. It's him, Johnny, trying to find Matt because Matt's gone missing.
So for the record, I want to chime in real quick. I had this comic. I bought this comic off the rack. When I was a kid, when it came out at a gas station, because my parents were like, pick up some comics, whatever, it's $1, whatever. And I knew I couldn't read very well, but I knew this was Daredevil because of the corner, the corner box. And then I'm like, oh, a Human Torch team up. I'm like, where the hell is Daredevil? Like the whole time. And I remember as a kid being like, this is a ripoff. No Daredevil. So anyway.
That's great. No, so I think there's a couple. I think some of the panels from this one that I sent you definitely want to highlight. I think, like I said, John Romita Jr. is just in his bag with this one. I think in particular this issue 260 might be my favorite issue of Daredevil I've ever read. It's just filled with these 2-page spreads. It's it's basically the culmination of Typhoid Mary's efforts to ruin Matt's life, and she pulls in all these other villains, the Bullet,
Bullet,
Bullet, I think, is the Lost Boys. All these new villains, that because at the beginning of Nacenti's run, she introduces a lot of new characters, and so she kind of pulls in all these villains, she had introduced earlier in her run. Typhoid Mary recruits them, and they're just like, they just all take turns. Matt thinks he's gotten through one of them, and then next thing he knows, the next villain's on top of him and just beating him down. And so you get these incredible 2-page spreads for most of them. This might be my favorite. I think this is just incredible work.
Yeah, dude. So a couple things here. What's crazy is for a short period of time, John Romita Jr. was the one. When he first started writing drawing comic books, what's crazy is his dad, who obviously is a legend, an icon, I would say. In fact, I've gone on record saying that John Romita, his dad, is probably the one responsible for commercializing Spider-Man's costume, because Steve Ditko was so just kind of stylized with his costume. It was so busy in a good way, for Spider-Man. But Romita was smart and was like, well, that's all really, really hard to draw, one, but let's make it a little more just let's even it out. And once he did that, that's when I think people popped to Spider-Man immediately. They already did, but I feel that turned it on even more so to the masses, and they realized the commercial aspect of this character when you cleaned up the webs a little bit, and that classic Spider-Man look. That's all Romita. So John Romita Jr., when he started drawing comic books, he'll tell you he struggled telling a story from layout perspective. He could draw a pretty picture, but he struggled the flow, and he had to get people to do layouts for him. So he would do the finishes, so our artists like Ron Friends is a classic example of this. He would go out for artists and just do the layout pages for them, and then they would just draw over it. Okay, to speed things up and just to kind of also teach them. So it was actually, and I think he said it was on with Ann Nocenti's Daredevil that you picked up on. He really figured out what he was doing. And that's why you get these amazing 2-page splashes of dynamic, great storytelling. It was on Daredevil that he kind of figured it all out. He did some cool stuff with Spider-Man, but he had a lot of help with Ron Friends and different things like that. But Nocenti, I think, gave him a lot of freedom to do what he wanted. And you see now them working together really paid off for him as an artist and as a visual storyteller. So
yeah, there's one more, I think, with
Typhoid,
with him falling, with Matt falling.
One second, I gotta find it here.
Yeah, that one, this one, this.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So it's incredible work. If you were to read, I'm only going to read one of these arcs. This is the one. I think this is for me the best non-Miller, and really this is probably I did while I was thinking about this, I did what's my overall rankings, and I think I put Born Again and then this run as my number 2.
I would actually agree with you for the most part. This is probably the best non-Miller. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah. I think this is one of them. I think, in my opinion, it's what's cool is you could binge. This is a good meaty story, The only thing is you got to be prepared for some zaniness, because once it gets later on, before this issue, this issue is so ridiculous. It's cool. It's ridiculous. But this issue is fantastic.
Yeah. I remember this is the one I was saying I think might be my favorite issue of Daredevil ever.
It's really good. I remember this one having a good climax and then kind of bleeding into Inferno and whatnot. So yeah, this run is definitely worth picking up, reading. I mean, like what Michael was saying, if you're gonna read if you want some good meaty Daredevil stuff that people don't talk about enough, go check this out. And remember, for those who don't know, Typhoid Mary was also a major character in season 3. So, which I thought I forgot the actress playing her, the chick from Star Trek Into Darkness. She did a fantastic job. She was so good as Typhoid Mary, I thought. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, definitely worth picking up. But again, readers beware. Inferno gets bonkers. And if you read all of Nocenti, it's a little bonkers. in general, but in a good way, I'd say. She stretches the character out better than I think than most writers could, to be honest, because you have the Inhuman show up, he fights Ultron. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's lots of cool little things. I think her first kind of arc, there's some of her first initial stuff wasn't my favorite, but I think as she's kind of finding, getting her feet wet with the character, I think once I think when you get into like 248, 250, when Bullet, you get some Wolverine issues, you get Bullet comes in, I think is really when she kind of really starts hitting the ground running, and then
Bullet's a cool character.
And then this is the Bullet is a recurring character in her run, and definitely one of my favorite kind of new villains she introduced.
Or you could say anti-hero, right?
Yeah, he's complex in a way.
He's definitely complex. He's definitely complex.
I think that's kind of a thing with her run is she definitely delves into a lot of issues. She plugs into a lot of current events at the time, and which can be interesting to see Daredevil cover.
Daredevil Ninja, is that? Am I crazy on this? What am I missing on this one, Rob? Tell me. Is this like a different like an inspired show? Am I crazy? Is this something that came out that I missed? Let's see here. One second. My eyes are bad. So, is Ninja that came out in the 90s? Help me out with this.
I don't think I've ever heard of this.
I never heard of this. Yeah, you're gonna have to hook us up with this one, my friend. Please educate me, because I you are the teacher. I always say this on your show. You're the teacher, because I bow to you. You're always be a vastly superior storyteller than I ever will be. So tell me, what am I missing here? And tell me, Rob, too, if there are any Daredevil series besides the one you're talking about that you like and artists you like. I'm curious, because he's got a plethora. I mean, we're gonna get into one here in a second that I think is incredible.
Yeah.
Which I think he did. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, before we get off into Cinti, I do want to shout out. It's not technically really part of the Typhoid Mary arc, but it kind of sets it up in a lot of ways. 253.
The Spider-Man Blackheart.
It's the 253 is the Christmas it's like a Christmas issue.
Oh, okay.
It's like takes place all over Christmas.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's that one is cool too. I think I like this. It's a fun Christmas backdrop for kind of setting up, why of course Wilson Fisk wants to just ruin Daredevil,
sure,
but it's kind of the setup for Fisk going to then go get Typhoid Mary.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that issue is inspired by Nascenti's real life, because isn't it take place in a bar?
I'd have to. It's been a while since I've read it. I forget the specifics on it. I just remember from as I was kind of revisiting stuff and picking out some of my favorites. I remember really loving that issue.
What the heck? Am I crazy? Huh? Is it? Because Rob, I've got the Bendis trades. And I don't know if they collected in that. I didn't know this existed. I'll have to investigate. If it's Bendis and it's in my trades, I've read it, but I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember it at all. So I'll check it out. And by the way, you like something that Bendis did? Is this besides Bendis? Is it good despite him? I'm curious. I don't know. I don't think you were a fan, but maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Tell me. But I'll double check that at some point. I'll get up and grab. That's over there. For I alphabetized my trades somewhat finally a long time ago. So anyway, all right. This next series here, I think, is the art by Lee Weeks. Is this the first stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. No, this is my
still
shit.
Anna Cinti.
This is Nascenti.
Yeah.
Okay, because if we have a crossover, it like there's like a handoff between her and DJ or DG, right?
Yeah.
How do you say his last name? I'm so bad with last name.
I would butcher it.
Chrysler?
Butcher. Just. Are you talking about Chester?
Yeah, Chester. Yeah. I follow him on Twitter with the Comic Binge, so I feel bad if he ever have to watch this. Sir, no offense, I just can't pronounce anything. So, so this is So tell me, so this is issues. I'll throw this up here. Hold on one
Yeah,
second here.
this is basically these issues. This is basically the climax of Nocenti's run on Daredevil. Um, like we said, Daredevil literally finds himself in hell, has a run in with Mephisto, as you do when you go to hell.
That's so good.
Uh, it
Ridiculous.
it gets crazy, and again, John Romita Jr. just with insane. He really, speaking, you were talking about him just kind of finding it and just having the freedom to do what you like.
Mm-hmm.
He really goes places with Mephisto. Mephisto's design is incredible in that, and he just really is really out there. And so yeah, that experience is really takes a heavy toll on Matt. And so this is really, after that he basically goes off and is just like going through upstate New York. He goes through. He's like explore. After the Typhoid Mary stuff, he ends up in upstate New York, just kind of roaming the roads, trying to find himself. Ends up in hell, and this arc kind of brings him back to New York. After that, um, and he's kind of very mentally unstable. He's he has amnesia, and he has a run-in with Bullseye, who, you know, realizes he doesn't remember who he is. He doesn't know who Daredevil
Mm.
is. And he's in the costume. And so he's like, I don't know who Daredevil is. And, they Bullseye sees this as an opportunity. I presume that this is where they got the idea of Bullseye
Yeah.
dressing up
Season 3.
in season 3 of Daredevil. Because he takes the Daredevil costume. He's, looking to kind of ruin Daredevil's reputation, uh, committing crimes dressed as Daredevil, all the while Matt doesn't remember who he is, and he's going by Jack Murdock, his father's name. He ends up becoming an underground boxer, the blind boxer, um, in fighting, and he eventually finds his way back to remembering who he is. But it's like it's a great journey. I think, yeah. Here, this cover, you see Matt eventually realizing who he is, gets to turn the table on Bullseye, and he gets to be Bullseye. So it's just uh, a fun bit with some great storytelling, and ties into some of the past MCU stuff. Or Netflix. I guess they count it as MCU now. But
It's MCU now.
it's the Netflix stuff that was inspiration for season 3.
Yeah, they said they've gone out and they've confirmed like it's all together now.
Yeah.
Which makes the most sense. It never contradicts anything in the MCU and other stuff. So it all works out. So I've read I think a few of these issues, but Lee Weeks, dude's a master, man. This guy's so good.
Yeah, I love a lot of the covers, and the covers in
this cover
is great.
rips, dude. That to me is just a dynamic cover, in my opinion. The perspective, I love it. Just there, he has I should have grabbed the cover. There's an issue a couple issues later, that he does with Punisher, where the cover is like Punisher with a machine gun on top of like a bus, just going to town, and the Daredevil's like flying over him, but it's so good. It's so effing good. Yeah, I need to read this. I've read I think an issue or two of this, but I haven't read the whole thing, but I am familiar with it a little bit. So definitely excited about checking this out at some point, because I actually didn't know about the Bullseye twist with like as far as like them switching places essentially.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Like I didn't know that. Okay. So the next one is probably, I'm going to be honest. Your last official. Well, we have one more honorable mention after this one, but to me, this next one is probably I think one of the best stories of Volume 1, in my opinion. Like that's just,
I think so. It's in my top 5 of all of
far, if everything
of Volume 1.
Yeah. I was surprised. I remember as a kid when this was coming out, and we'll get in here in a second. I always loved the art. I was drawn by the art. The issue 300 cover that ends the series or ends the story always captivated me. Always. And that, of course, we'll start with issue 300 first, because it's just so good. Like, you got the center on it. And that's going to be Last Rites and this cover just rips, dude. Oh
Yeah.
god, I love it.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss, so good. Um, go ahead and tell people why they need to read this
Yeah.
one.
So Last Rites, I think it was kind of the big arc to celebrate the 300th issue. Culminates in issue 300. Um, you know, so if you look at Born Again is basically, Wilson Fisk basically deciding he's had enough of Matt Murdock and Daredevil, and he's going to systematically destroy his life. Every aspect of his entire life. And Last Rites is basically reverse Born Again. It is
Mhm.
it is Matt Murdock deciding he's had enough of the Kingpin. He is going to do what the Kingpin did to him and
Mhm.
just systematically destroy every part of his life, you know, destroy his relationships, destroy his business operations, take away his respect within the criminal empire, the criminal empire he'd built. And it's just like a great 4-issue run that kind of I think you can read those two as kind of a companion in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
It's
you
like,
can. That's a
yeah,
good point. Yeah.
yeah. It's just I think you need to have read Born Again, I think, to appreciate Last Rites, because they do a lot of the beats again. There's lots of similarities to like the beats of the ways
Mhm.
Fisk destroyed his life, and I think that's within the story is intentional. He's basically like, because this is kind of Matt when he's finally got his shit back together. He's recovered from all the many ups and downs of his life. You get Typhoid Mary comes back here, um, and you know he just really it's just a really compelling arc with incredible art, and like this cover is incredible.
Yeah, the art is just, especially 300. I remember reading, I read this Last Rites with the Daredevil Man Without Fear.com Man Without Fear.com host or creator. God, I forgot his name. I feel really bad. But we did, when the binge was a audio show only, he came on and we did a show together, and we read this. I think we talked about the series. It's been like 4 or 5 years ago now. Seems like forever. Super great guy though. But I remember just praising this series, and just reading this issue 300 was such a joy to read. It was just, it's just the art by Lee Weeks is, I just, it is, I think the opening page, like, it's like, I think he's in like a supermarket or something like that, like a mall. And it's just, I haven't even looked at this comic at all, by the way. I remember it that well. It's just that good. And I remember just the images are so striking and so good. Yeah, this Last Rites is probably, I think, in my opinion, the most underrated Daredevil story that no one talks about, and it drives me nuts when people are like, "I
Yeah, I
love
don't think
Daredevil." It's like,
I'd never even heard of it
yeah,
before
exactly.
going into it. Yeah,
But when you read it, you're like, "What the hell? This is great!"
yeah.
Like, super good. Like, I think the writer, DG Chrysler, terrible. Like, he does great work with Daredevil and has great ideas. Some of the execution later on gets a little, we can do like we can do that on a future show of
I
Fall from Grace.
I almost put that on my list
No, you didn't. Stop
just
it.
for you.
Stop
Almost.
it.
I thought about it just for you. I like Fall from Grace. I hate the art. I think Fall from
The
Grace,
art is rough.
the art is really bad. But I'll, I guess I'll take that as a compliment. I don't know.
Damn,
Uh,
homie.
but yeah, no, I almost put it on there just for you. But for me, the art is if it wasn't for the art, if Lee Weeks did the art of Fall from Grace, like
Dude, it'd be a
we would probably
classic.
talk about it differently.
That's, well, we're gonna have to maybe before the show is over, like the Daredevil show, because we got a while, right?
Yeah,
And we have season 2 eventually too, right? So we
they've
have,
said that they're going to season Infinity. In the interviews they've been doing, they're talking about like this show is going to run forever.
I'm fine.
They've set up to season 3. So
I'm good. Let's do
yeah,
it. Let's
yeah.
do it.
That's how
But
TV used to be. It's meant
yeah,
TV.
back in our day, right? Back in our day. Well, all I gotta say is that I'm going to say right now that we're gonna do Fall from Grace, and we're gonna have you. I'm gonna get Javi. I'm gonna make Javi read that damn thing. I'm gonna read Chris read it, and they're gonna feel the pain that we felt reading this. And
I
yeah,
I
good.
think, and I think for me, and it's part of why I liked it is, uh, it's one of the first times. So as part of my reading all the Daredevil stuff, I also was reading all the Elektra stuff.
Mm.
And so I read Frank Miller's Elektra omnibus. I have my local comic book store. The first time I went in there, he talked to me. He was like talking it up, and I was like, you know what? You seem like a cool guy. I want to buy this expensive comic book from you. Uh, and so he talked me into that, and that's one where the art doesn't necessarily do it for me. I know it's a very
Sienkiewicz.
revolutionary. I think it's the very weird kind of like
Yeah, Sienkiewicz. Yeah,
multimedia. It doesn't do it for me, but I think some of the writing and the stories are really interesting. And I think I really appreciated Fall from Grace kind of being the first time they brought a lot of characters from that story like
yeah,
into the proper, because it's one of those stories that like it doesn't necessarily fit within the comic books continuity is kind of all over the place,
yeah,
and it doesn't necessarily fit super neatly with the rest of the continuity, but I appreciated seeing some of those characters come into kind of the proper, main Daredevil kind of continuity.
yeah. It's yeah. I just yeah. Well, and we'll also have to cover Ninja Daredevil too.
Apparently, I'm down.
Ooh, that's a woo. Yeah, we're getting yeah, well, that's gonna be a whole different podcast. That's all I gotta say about that. So, yeah, yeah. Last Rites is amazing. Let's see here. Um, oh, okay. I don't know if you want to put this comment up or not. It's up to you. I'll let you decide that. Um, but um, but yeah, I'm not sure you see his comment or not, but he's saluting you. Um,
I
but
see.
anyway, yeah, Last Rites is I think the story people should read to really get if you love Daredevil's show. This feels I'd say these 4 issues 297 to 290 or 297 to 300, that this is to me a great, like, if you love the show of the new and the old shows, whatever series, these 4 issues are worth reading as soon as possible, in my opinion. So would you second that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
It's a quick
it's
read too.
it's
They're
four
not like,
issues. Like
yeah,
the
and
Nicinti stuff is longer. There's a lot, and you want to read more. You want to read the longer run to really appreciate it. But yeah, I think this is 4 issues that kind of stand on their own. Assuming you're familiar with Born Again. I think I'd say if you haven't read Born Again, read Born Again, and then read this.
mhm.
But yeah,
Okay. Okay. Well, last thing we have on the list is in chronological order, which this one kind of surprised me because I haven't read this issue yet. But you piqued my interest because now because then this is a one-off issue, 350.
yeah. I'm a sucker for a good double-sized issue.
Same.
I
I'm
just
with
I
you.
just think that they can tell kind of, especially for like this, because they're typically like one-off stories, and
Hmm.
so this is kind of, you know Matt rectifying. This is toward the end of volume one. Volume there's you have like 30 issues left of volume one.
Just really quick, I
Yeah.
just want to come in. If those who are watching will notice upper left corner, Marvel Edge, it's coming to an end. That's all I gotta say because that is when SH started to go really downhill at Marvel. Like that's when they were like, let's have Punisher kill off Nick Fury, and then it's like we'll do this and we'll do that. Like Punisher goes insane. It's like, and then Tony Stark becomes the Kang the Conqueror. It's like, and then young Tony has it's like, what the hell are you doing? So anyway, I just like Marvel Edge is a very interesting time to say the least. So anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I think, you know so like we've talked about, so many of these stories are about, you know the psychological damage of Matt Murdock and throwing him through the ringer over and over and over again. And so this issue is very much like, it's really trippy. It's very much him rectifying his past and all the different, you know, it touches on some of the stuff that we didn't necessarily talk about that happens before this, where there's a yellow suit Daredevil running around, and it's Matt's mental uh, capacity is definitely weakened throughout. He's gone through a lot, and this is kind of really dealing with all his inner demons, and kind of, it kind of is one of those things where it kind of serves as like, every time a lot of comic creators will take a character through a lot of stuff and they kind of change their status quo. It's
Yeah.
kind of one of those like reset the status quo issues in a lot of ways of like, all right, he's back to the Daredevil we know. But I think it's a really interesting journey. It kind of takes you back through, if you've read Man Without Fear,
Oh yeah. The
some of
stick.
the
Right. Right
yeah,
there.
it's lots of stick in this, and it takes you back through kind of his past with the sex worker that he kills in some of the iterations of his origin story.
Oh
Um,
yeah. In the
yeah,
when he Man Without Fear is so good.
yeah,
That series is so
that's
freaking
also
good.
in my top 5. Yeah, but yeah, various iterations of Matt has like Daredevil has like 5 different origin stories that are all slightly
Yeah.
different, and it kind of deals with him kind of dealing with that part of his past, and it's a really interesting kind of one-off story.
Yeah. Is this written by Jane DeMatteis?
It is done. It's done. There's a couple of writers. Yes, it is him, and they also credit Ivan Vilex Jr., who I've never heard of.
Did he?
Yeah, there's
So
two writers credited, and Ron Wagner is the penciler.
yeah, I think I reckon because I actually read some of his run when I was a kid, because there's that crazy guy. No, the crazy guy is the red Daredevil that he has to come in and beat the crap out of, and because there's that great cover where it's like him like as yellow Daredevil smacking red Daredevil. I love that cover. It's a great cover. Jamie, I need to read his JMD Mateus' Daredevil run. He's one of my favorite comic writers, actually. I've never read his Daredevil stuff, but JMD Mateus is probably pound for pound. Like
this is a great cover. This is
that,
kind of
I had that one too.
That era, yeah.
Yeah, that's JMD Mateus as well. That's because that issue goes into the next one, I believe. But yeah, like it's JMD Mateus is a writer that whenever I read his stuff, I always mostly enjoy it. The one thing I haven't really enjoyed of his that I really wanted to, was his Dr. Fate stuff. And that was, I think the art kind of turned me off, kind of like the Fall from Grace, kind of the same idea, maybe. You got me. I need to read this. I know I might have to go binge. I might have to go binge the entire run just to get to this. Because Stick is a very, I always forget he exists, to be quite honest. I'm like, oh yeah, Stick, forgot about him. So,
he'll pop up. It's the thing about weird mystical beings that are maybe alive, maybe who knows what they are. He can pop up anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think he'll get spotlighted correctly. I think so. I'd say, I'll be honest, I've avoided the current run after Zdarsky, because
I started it, and I haven't not because I wasn't interested. I liked what I was reading at the beginning, but
okay.
I'm just a bad current comics reader, because I fall behind.
No one's perfect.
Yeah, it takes me. I've been wanting to get back to it and jump back in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad Marvel didn't give up on Daredevil. And one thing I wanted to say too before we wrap up here is the reason why Daredevil doesn't have the same, and I didn't realize this till actually Rob Liefeld informed me before he blocked me on everything. But on his podcast, which actually his podcast is mostly, I haven't listened to a ton of it recently in the last couple of years, but for the most part, it's been pretty solid if you love comic books. He had mentioned that the reason why Daredevil, or not reason why, but Daredevil went bi-monthly, or went every couple or bi-monthly or whatever it is. Yeah. And so that's why his number count was so lower than everybody else, because it was only coming out 6 times a year, opposed to like 12 times a year. Right. Mm-hmm. And I always thought like, oh, Daredevil must have started like after Spider-Man because it's lower, whatever. And if you want to get into that crazy conundrum, because like the Hulk like goes 6 issues, then it goes Tales to Astonish, and then it jumps back into the Incredible Hulk like 180 issues. And it's like, what the hell? It's so weird. And Captain America 2, it's like, what? It's so weird.
This is why one of my favorite recent Marvel things they've done is I love the legacy when they do the legacy numbering, because it's because I honestly feel like they reboot the volumes too regularly. It's almost like at this point it's like they change writers and it's a new volume. But they didn't do that back in the day. 300 issues is it's like 30 years of comics practically.
I know, I love it. But yeah, it stinks because we're not, it doesn't have the same like the problem is right now people are turned off by like, which I don't blame them.
Big numbers scary.
Yeah, I get it. Like that makes sense. So I mean, but listen, we gave you, I think, some great Daredevil comics to read. Some that I have not read, some I have read and I love, like Last Rites and some of the Typhoid Mary run, basically, of some of the Sentis. I'd say probably best work of the series. I would say on there. Definitely need to be read, in my opinion. I think those. I second those what Michael said. But the other ones I'm excited for reading too. The Marv Wolfman, Jim Mooney, sign me up. I'll read that shit. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah. Glad I picked some good ones. Yeah,
you did. No, I'm impressed. So, yeah, I'm. Obviously now we have to you on for Fall from Grace and maybe cover some more Ninja Daredevil.
I definitely want to hear what Chris and has he, because has he never read Fall from Grace?
Well, first of all, Daredevil Yellow, by the way, we did that last year, didn't we? A couple years ago?
Yeah, I think it was last year at some point.
It wasn't. No, it was. I was in my old house, so it was in the other house.
Okay. What is 2 years ago? I don't know what time is.
Yeah, time is a flat circle. But no, it's we did do Daredevil Yellow, which I liked. So I don't love them as much. I don't love that stuff as much as other people do for some reason. I don't connect to it as much. But I mean, Tim Sale's, he's amazing.
The Tim Sale and that duo is just, they're one of the greatest duos. I know. Like, it's hard to beat them. I didn't, as I said, I sucker for good 2-page spread for the longest time. Yeah. The Jack Murdoch Punch Out knockout spread. That was my wallpaper for months and months after we read that.
Maybe if your partner is listening, maybe she should potentially get something like that framed for you.
That can be cool.
Maybe if you're listening, giving you ideas. I know you're listening. I know you are. Spoiler. Daredevil Yellow had some good stuff in it. I mean, Loeb's amazing. Or not Loeb, sorry. I like Loeb. Sale's incredible. He's the only reason why I would read those. That's a whole different. You go watch the show. Go watch the show we did.
We did. We had a good discussion on it.
We did. We definitely did. Yeah. And for this, I'm excited to get to like Fall from Grace, and maybe we should even like dabble in the JMD Mateus run now. Now Daredevil's gonna go on forever.
I'm always down to talk Daredevil. So just,
how far are you in volume 2, real quick, before we head out?
I'm through all the Kevin Smith stuff. I need to figure out where.
He's only on 12 issues.
Yeah, I need to figure out where I stopped. That's because
you got to Gale. That's the problem. That's the problem.
It's not that when I stop reading, it's not necessarily a commentary on the work. But
you don't have to tell me, sir. I understand completely.
Sometimes you fall off and then you come back. So I'm sure Born Again and us talking Daredevil is going to get me itching to kind of jump back on that, on that train. So I'll let you know when I figure out where I stopped.
I will, for those who don't know, and maybe I'll do my own show like about. Well, if I'm talking Daredevil, I'm going to bring you on.
I got through the Echo stuff, so
it's at
least the Echo stuff. I think I got.
I don't think I made it past the Echo because Gale was so bad. I was like, I can't read this, and I hate that because I love Back to the Future, but his comics are garbage. I'm sorry, they're so bad.
maybe I'll enjoy them. You know.
I don't know.
I didn't hate Last Rites, so maybe.
You did. I'm glad you didn't. Well, you know, Fall from Grace.
Yeah, Fall from Grace.
Yeah, don't put Last Rites into that. I mean, that's a great story. No, for those who don't know, and I will fully tell you all that even though it's probably not a traditional way of telling the story of a Daredevil story, Kevin Smith's Guardian Devil is that good. It's one of my favorite Daredevil stories ever. I think it's fantastic. It takes a little bit for Kevin to get his feet underneath him for comics, but once he starts and he gets in, it's like, I love this. I love that comic to death. It's so good. So just saying, Quesada, Smith, great pairing. That to me is a classic. I need to get that to me in like a deluxe size that these comic people like to do. Give me a massive version of that. I would love to get that art. So again, different podcast, different time. We'll talk about that. I'm curious what you think about it. Don't tell me yet. Wait for the show. So all right. Do you want to promote anything? I don't know what I don't know. Do you?
I don't really necessarily have anything to promote, but you can check me out at MJ Daily on Twitter. I'm not going to call it the other name.
I agree. I'm with you.
It's always Twitter. But yeah, you can follow me there. I say every time I plug my Twitter, it's going to be a lot of basketball right now. But I think with Born Again, there'll be some Daredevil in there.
Okay. All right. Daredevil. All right. Well, for those who don't know, you can follow the Comic Binge. Go subscribe if you haven't already. So all that crap. Comment. Tell me what your favorite Daredevil story is in the comments if you haven't already. I'd be very curious. Do you guys like Last Rites? Do you know Typhoid Mary storyline? Come on. Where are your Daredevil people at? Let us know. You know what I mean? Subscribe on Bluesky, all that jazz. I always hate this part of the show. So I do. Subscribe. I hate it. Anyway. So all right. So because Chris isn't here, I'll take us out. Read more comics. Enjoy Daredevil. Good night, everybody.